recording.
All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Brandi Rank. I'm the GIS manager for the city development at City of Thornton, Colorado. And I was asked to come and speak today. One of my favorite topics to talk about is leadership and management. Some of you, I don't know if some of you have seen my presentation before, should be a little different than what you've seen, but kind of where I'm coming from is I've had the opportunity to work with two different separate GIS teams in different organizations, and they're both public. I have never worked in the private industry. And kind of, what I lovingly say, take that group from zero to hero. And I'm going to talk about how I did that. I'm going to talk about leadership and building trust, management. I'm going to talk about marketing, otherwise known as metrics and bragging rights. So that's kind of the agenda that we have today. So as managers and leaders, you need to start with yourself. You really need to start knowing who you are and thinking about your brand. So what's your purpose? What kind of leadership style do you like? What do you want people to say about you when you retire? What do you want people to say about you when you're not there? How do you kind of want to be known? And you need to figure that out for yourself. We're all different. So, you'll probably come to learn my brand over this presentation, but yours might be a little bit different. So some of you might not even know where to start thinking about that. And I was thinking about some questions that I've thought about that have come up through my presentations, and just kind of ways to get you thinking and focusing in on how to figure out what your brand is. And, before you even kind of get there, I liked to know if people like being managers. In the public sector, especially, one of the only ways to really move up in an organization and be promoted and make more money is to kind of move into that management track. And the unfortunate thing is just because you're good technically doesn't mean you're a good manager. And I don't know, it's not unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that's how our pay structures are set up, but that's the reality of it. And I see a lot of people kind of like move into the management role, and they don't really want to be there. And there's two things that happen. They either sit there until whenever, or they leave because they're no longer happy and people feel like going back down is a defeat or makes you look bad. So I would hope that if you are in a manager position, you can unequivocally say that you like being a manager, you like people, you care about them, and that you're kind of ready to move away from being the most technical person on your team into being that person that develops your team members to become better and more technical. And if you're the manager that's there and you don't actually like it, quit, go find another job, get out of there. You are destroying your GIS team. And I am not being facetious. I strongly, strongly believe that. I've said that before in a room and I had growling at me. That's okay. You can growl. Doesn't bother me because I believe this is true. We all have gifts. We all have things that make us great, and sometimes it's just not going to work out for you. And when you're a manager, you have a lot of power over people. And if you're just going to sit there because you want more money, I mean, it's not only tacky, you're affecting other people's professional development, and it's wrong. So there are some questions you can think about, because really, there's a difference between a manager and a leader, but at the end of the day, managers have to be leaders. And, are you ready to take on that role? It's a lot of work and it's really difficult. And some of us go into GIS to be technical. So be okay with that. I ask a lot of people, or people ask me, what can I read? What should I learn about? And I don't really subscribe to a specific leadership style, but I think that servant leadership is probably the closest. So I just wanted to add this slide to let you know that this is what you can go search and read and learn more about. The overall, concept is you flip the hierarchy. So I work for my team. So they don't work for me, I work for them. And my whole goal is to push resources and encouragement and training and everything up to my people. And I'm there to block and play defense for anything that comes their way. And I'm there to make sure they get those resources and help them, inspire them to be great. So just wanted to put that in there so you can go do some reading on your own or join the organization. They send out some really nice little emails daily or weekly that reinforces the concepts. And it's just sometimes nice to read a little one sentence motivational line for that day, because managing people, it's all about the people. If you feel like your team could be doing better, or you are going to be new, which is, I always love being in that position because there's no baggage on you. It's rarely the technical problem. It's usually a people problem. And so you really need to care about people enough to think about all the ways that people like to be treated. And then you need to execute that every single day. Work environments are, of course, different right now for many of us. It's still not an excuse, though. You still have to actively work on that culture of your team. You might not want beanbag chairs and ping pong tables, but, you can still create a nice little cultural environment. You can do really small things, like we are in the basement of our building. There's no windows. It's not the best, So we got like this big tapestry of island, tropical island, and we hung it up on the big wall. So when we don't see a big gray wall, we see, palm trees and water, and we think of vacation. And then they don't really have at the city, they don't have like free coffee or, places where you can go and just pick it up. Every place is different, obviously. So I just bought a coffee and a French press and a water kettle and some tea. And I just keep it stocked. And, this was a huge change for my employees. This is a very different concept. So they kind of timidly, got into this change. But, changing your office is a really small thing, but it really does help change that culture. I was able to send a survey out, about 90 different responses are what I got for my survey. And as you can see here, about half of the managers said they are not asking for direct feedback. And that's something you need to change today. What you need to do with your employees is you need to build trust, and that's two ways. And one of the best ways to show that you care and that you want feedback is to start with yourself and ask them if they have any feedback for you. This really shows vulnerability, it shows humility, and really plays into being an authentic leader, which I don't know anyone who doesn't want an authentic leader. So this is going to be different potentially. You're going to start asking your employees, we have one-on-one meetings, and I ask them directly, is there anything I can improve on? Anything, any feedback you'd like to give me, good or bad? And generally speaking, I'm going to assume that no one's going to say anything, and then I would ask again. And they don't really want to say anything. So another tactic I've tried is to prompt them. Maybe I think something could have been done better, or, I can be critical of myself. I want to improve myself. Well, I'm not, I tried this. This was my strategy. This is what I was hoping for. What do you think? Well, how would you have handled it? What could I have potentially, what potentially was I blind to on that? And sometimes, if you've tried multiple times, they're going to start feeling better and more able to give you feedback. At the same time, you're giving them honest and direct feedback. So it's kind of that give and take in that loop, and you're demonstrating how to do it, and you're allowing them and asking them to be a part of that process. Now, if you're scared, yeah, I get it. It's kind of scary. But you probably really need to do it if you're scared, because it's going to be really good for you for growth. And you don't want to not ask because you're afraid of the answer. That means you have some work to do. Be open to it. We're humans. It's okay to say, you know what, I haven't been the best boss for the last 6 months. Like, it's totally fine. You need to find your comfort level though, because leadership is intentional. When you see a really high performing team, when you meet people who love their jobs, they have a good leader, most likely. And you don't just, it doesn't just happen. You can't, as a leader and a manager, just go, well, I just don't have a strong team. You know, that's literally your fault. You're the one who is responsible for that. And so, and it doesn't happen. So some ways you can help fix that. Flexibility comes up a lot. People want more flexibility. And I think I'm blocking people's screen. And so if they want more flexibility, but they don't feel like they have flexibility, you know, how happy can they really be? So I can give you some examples. Small things. I work in the public sector, as I said. We don't have necessarily a lot of options. But, you know, I had an employee who, honestly, not a morning person, not going to be there at 8 o'clock, consistently there at 8:15, 8:20. I'm like, okay. Well, all the other employees, they're out the door, the pretty much the minute they can. You know, they're not dawdling, they're not staying late, and I don't expect them to. But this person does. This person isn't out the door, and they're working a little bit later. And I've even received emails from them, you know, after 5 o'clock. And so what I decided to do was just, you know, get it out there in the open, own it, and talk about it. So I said, hey, you know, in our one-on-one meeting, I said, hey, I just want to, you know, talk about the fact that you're late every day. And they were not, I mean, you can feel even when they walk in the door, you can feel that they feel angst. And I said, hold on, you know, I'm like, I have no problem with you coming in late, you know, and part of the reason why is because you stay late. And I appreciate, you know, that we never had that conversation. You just are, you know, honest person, and you immediately knew and felt the right thing to do would be to stay late. I said, and I don't have a problem with that. So what I need you to stop doing is being stressed out when you come in late every day. And I don't need you to speed, and I don't need you to say you're sorry. And let's just take that stress, because you have stress every morning about this, even though it's never going to change. And now it's done. And now the person comes in when they come in, and there's no stress. And it just honestly makes everybody's day better, because who wants to feel stress at 8:15 in the morning? You know, I don't. Another employee, you know, they work nights or weekends to do things that we have to do offline. So, okay, you know, hey boss, I did X, Y, and Z. It was about 3 hours. So I'm going to, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and mark off on my lunch break and take 2 hours so I can take a bike ride. Okay. You know, put it on your calendar so I know where you are, and I'm not trying to make meetings with you. Don't cancel important things to do it. And yeah, I mean, why wouldn't I do that? Some of you might be like, yeah, why are you even talking about this? This is silly things. But it's not, because I actually know managers who would not suffer these things. They feel like they're being taken advantage of, and why should they be treated differently, and yada, yada. And it's like, life's too short, man, you know, and things come up. You want flexibility when you need it too. Another really important part of helping to build a team and build a culture and training and other things is inclusion. So one example that we've done, and this is not something that I do all the time, or I actually haven't done it in months, especially since we haven't been in the office, but we had kind of a large slate of projects that we wanted to do. And there was everybody kind of had their own feeling of their priorities. And so I wanted to figure out a way to allow, you know, have my employees, you know, have input into what they worked on and the priorities of them, while also kind of talking bigger picture. So I have this impact effort chart, and everyone had to put up their task or their project and kind of place it. Where does it go? Is it high impact, high effort? And it was a really good way, and a comfortable way for everyone to look at their projects, categorize them, and then they were able to, we had conversations. If I disagreed, then I would talk about why. And, you know, after I asked them why they put it in that spot, and it kind of opened this dialogue up, and we were able to talk bigger picture about things. When you think about impact to the organization, that's a really different indicator of whether a project should be done than I want to do it because it's cool technology, right? So take the time to do these exercises. They don't take very long. And yeah, your employees might be like, what are we in kindergarten? We're doing crafts or something. Yep, that's what we're doing. If it makes you feel better, that's what we're doing. And get it done, you know, and it's a visual thing that you can look at. And it's going to help, you know, this, I know we're not the only group that has this problem where you see like a new technology and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. And I don't have a reason to, but I'm going to do it anyways. Well, when you think about impact and effort, those really might be a high effort and a low impact. So when you start looking at it like that, it's easier to say no, or easier to let go of that than just your boss saying, no, you can't do that because, you know, I don't want you to learn anything new. So I reached out to my colleagues and I asked them what basically the worst part of working with GIS people is. And none of them wanted to actually give me an answer. And, you know, of course, oh, well, we don't have any problems with you, Brandi. And I was like, all right, let's just start with that. This isn't me or my team, but give me some, because I know there's problems. Like, nobody's perfect. So this was their answer. And, you know, we're too much in the weeds. We're so rigid. All we do is talk about GIS, and we're too techie, and we're way too funneled into that. And we don't understand their business. And they don't want to understand ours. They don't care, right? And so they feel like they don't want to have conversations with us because they don't really know what just happened, right? And then they're kind of left in the dark going, am I going to get what I want? And we just use so many acronyms and all these techie talks with them, and they didn't feel heard, right? The flip side of it is, as GIS professionals, we have challenges with our customers. We all get the unreasonable deadlines. I call it, I tell people we're not the help desk. You know, we're business partners with you. Huge frustration of mine. I mean, if you haven't had I want this project done, and then when you ask for the data to support it, they look at you blankly, then you haven't been doing GIS very long, because it happens all the time, you know? And we don't understand their business, and it is a frustration for GIS people. And that's kind of where our overlap comes. So, you know, with that being said, it's one of my most annoying things that you can do is like have a pity party for yourself. Nobody understands what GIS is, and everyone just thinks it's a map, and, you know, it's really boring. You know, like, stop complaining and look for solutions. And I can give you an example. I'll be first to admit I've done it many, many times. I had a boss a couple years ago, and I was having a pity party, and he looked at me and he was like, Brandi, this isn't the Justice League. Like, what do you want? What do you want me to do? You know? And I stopped and I'd cracked up and I started laughing. I'm like, you're right. Thank you for actually saying that to me. I actually kind of needed you to kick me in the butt and say, be quiet. Now let's talk about solutions. Now, how are we going to work around it? Right? So again, back to the survey questions, you know, how aware are you of the priorities of the senior leadership in your organization? because part of the reason why they don't know what you do is because you haven't provided them a solution to a problem that they have. And if you don't know their problems and their pain points, you won't be able to create that solution. So we really need this 60% of people moved to take up more of the pie. In a way, I have it easy because I'm in the public sector, and the council agendas and packets and meetings are all public record. So I'm able to either attend them when they're happening, or I'm able to go back and watch them later. And it's a really eye-opening way to learn about the different personalities and the different people on your elected boards, and also to see how your department interacts with them. Because communication is one of the most important aspects of being a manager and really just being a professional. And there's so many different ways and pipelines of communication. As a manager, you're going to communicate to your employees. As a manager, you're going to communicate to your who you report to, your boss. You're also, a huge part of the job is to market. And, you want to be able to speak to senior leadership. But, back to the team, they want to be a part of something bigger. Everybody does. So I try to keep up with what's going on at the council level. And I share that with them. We have our team meetings, and I, let them know I saw this at the council, or I heard this in our manager meeting, just want you guys to know. And sometimes, at the beginning when I started doing that, they were like, that doesn't affect us. Why are you telling us this, And I was like, yeah, thanks. That's a great point. So I think it does affect us. And here's why. And here's how it's going to keep us we're learning about our leaders. We're understanding how they function. We understand what priorities there are. There was a conversation about homelessness last night. And, have you seen any solutions? What have you seen out there? And so then it becomes more of a conversation of, if we were asked to do something, what would you do? It's just a thought exercise. And it kind of brings them in. Here's how you take a concept, and then kind of how would you use GIS to help it if you were asked. Honestly, it seems like every survey or every book you read or every article you read, communication is always the thing that people feel is lacking. So I spend a lot of time communicating. And another thing is to ask your employees to communicate with you. For example, in a team meeting, can you describe your project to the other people? And a little bit of it is to make sure everybody knows what's going on, but another part of it is to help develop those skills to communicate and have a conversation about the work that they're doing, not just being able to do the work, but to talk about the work. Sometimes GIS people say this where they don't really get the access. They're not at the table. And it's unfortunate. It's true. There's a lot of people that feel that way, but be ready for it. So I was in a meeting once, and there was mostly kind of the senior leadership, and this gentleman who infatuated with. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Just a great person in general. He was asked to kind of last minute come in and talk about an IT sort of topic. And he started talking in a different language as far as the senior leadership team was concerned. And about 10 seconds in to him presenting this idea, I was just like, oh God. And I wanted to just jump across the table and be like, stop it, save yourself. And then leadership. There's nothing worse, right? Than when you look over and now your manager and finance director and whatever are all looking at their phones. You've lost them, So be ready to communicate with the different audiences. If you get in, if you get in the elevator and your CEO, city manager, whatever says, hey, nice to meet you. What do you do here? What are you going to say? Are you going to say something that makes them care? Are you going to be in the weeds? Practice it. Literally say it out loud in your house, in the mirror until it doesn't feel weird anymore. You have to stop hiding. So, I hear this a lot. Well, we're introverts. Okay. Right. Well, so am I. That's not an excuse. You can't just be like, well, I'm an introvert, therefore I don't have to do my job. Right? Understanding that you're an introvert, figure out ways to go out there and communicate with people that feel safe and that are comfortable for you. Maybe work on one relationship. I might be able to go and meet 3 people in one day and keep it all, together and whatever. You might be only able to deal with one person a day, a new person that you're going to try to develop a relationship. That's fine, but you can't do nothing. It's not an option. So you've got to get out and you've got to start talking to people. Oh, I went the wrong way. Because communicating with your customers is the most important thing that you can do to be successful. So build those relationships. One thing is, that I like to point out. So you as the manager, you might spend more time with customers than the other people on your team. But it's kind of a good way to start connecting your team with your customers. So maybe you're talking to someone in one of your divisions and you find out they really like cats. Well, one of your, GIS technicians also loves cats. So tell them, hey, did you know Jane likes cats? And then when you get back to your office, hey, Jane, I just found out, Joe loves cats. And you're starting to plant those interconnectedness for those people. So, next time Jane leaves the basement to go get a notepad and maybe she sees Joe, she might, oh, I heard you have cats. It's a reason for someone to communicate with someone they don't know. It's so much more comfortable to talk about things you love with someone loves those same things than it is to be like, oh, hi, I'm the GIS analyst and I'm going to randomly stop by your desk and see how you're doing, and you should randomly stop by their desk. I mean, we've all done this, right? Where you see someone you haven't seen in a while and they're like, oh, by the way, GIS is down. And you're like, oh my gosh, when did it go down? Do you know? Yeah, like 3 months ago. And you're just like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't you tell me? I get it. They're busy. They're trying to do their work. You kind of can't blame other people for that stuff. Like, take ownership of that and be proactive and go out there and talk to people. I believe that client satisfaction is one of the most important metrics that you can have and ways that you can test or determine whether you're doing a good job. We do annual surveys. We send out, I try to keep it consistent, if not identical, to the previous years because I want to show change. And even if it's gradual, it's pretty nice to see that you've kind of moved the needle a little bit. And hopefully it's gradual because you're already really high, and to get a little bit higher is a little harder. You're already in the 90s. So how do you get to 94? It's obviously going to be an anonymous survey. I use, an online survey thing, but I read every single result. I read every comment. I, of course, share it with my manager. We talk about pretty much all of it in detail. And then what I do is I export the whole thing. I do not change anything. And I send it to everybody that I asked. So if I send it to my department and say, please fill out the survey, then I send the results to everyone in my department. This is a really great way to learn to earn trust and to earn respect from people, because you're not going to, not everyone loves you. I mean, it's just never going to happen in my experience. So, you know, having the courage to put out there a nasty comment that someone wrote about you, it really, all it does is make you look better. You know, you might be upset about it, or it might hurt your feelings a little bit, but I'm telling you, the outpouring of support you're going to get from the people that love you after they read that nasty comment about you is going to feel really, really good. You're showing the person who made the nasty comment that if they're going to make that nasty comment anonymously, everyone's going to see it. We don't know who said it, but everyone's going to see it. You know, and it's kind of working towards that overall big picture culture of, you know, we're not going to let you bully us in silence, or we're not going to not tell people. You know, it's pretty powerful, actually. And, you know, having internal conversations with the team about the survey results is really important. Like many of us, I'm sure many, if not every single person on the call, if you sent out a survey, you'd be in the high 80s, low 90s minimum. I guarantee that, because GIS is awesome. But, you know, I really do, and it's really hard for people to give constructive criticism. So get rid of the nasty people, because they don't matter anyways. But try to read into some of the comments that maybe aren't directly telling you there's something wrong, but if you can glean something, I really recommend that you do that, because it might be the best you can get. Sometimes people are like, oh, well, I didn't know they weren't happy. Well, did you really listen? Did you really try to find something? So I highly suggest that you do that. I've heard a lot of, you know, after going through all of the stuff that I've been talking about, and I have more to go on, I hear a lot of people say, well, you know, I'm a working manager, Brandi. I don't have time for that. And, you know, what I hear is, I don't want to be a manager. So everything you just told me I should be doing, because that's what managers are supposed to do, I don't actually want to do that. So be honest with yourself. Think about how you were going to respond to that, and, you know, make room for someone who wants to manage. Just to give you an idea, June of 2020, 63% of my time was spent in meetings or doing kind of what I code as administrative work. So whether that's one-on-ones, or working on my budget, or, you know, writing a press release kind of thing, or, you know, putting stuff on LinkedIn, or those kind of things are going to go in my administrative bucket. So 63% of my time in a month, there is no ArcGIS, right? There's no GIS work being done by me. And part of the reason I do that is it's multifaceted. Number one, I have to do the manager job, because that is my job. And the other thing is, I strongly believe in delegation. Delegation is one of the most powerful tools that you have in your bucket when you're a manager. The goal for me is 100% of the requests that come to us for service are assigned to somebody else on my team, and I don't do them. That's the goal. There are times when that isn't appropriate and I'm not able to do that. But the majority of the time, that is how things are done. You know, your employees want to learn new skills. They want to be busy. I mean, if they're worth their salt, right? They want to be busy. What I see a lot when managers don't delegate, there's a couple issues there. One, they're not doing their job, which is they're thinking, well, I need to do it because I can do it fast, and that person can't do it as fast as I can. And so what you're doing is not doing your job, which is pushing back on unreasonable deadlines, having constructive professional conversations with your clients, and then providing your team the time and the resources and the training to be successful, right? So if I get a request and I think it would take me a day, I give my employee a week. Now, all this is in context, and, you know, so I know some of you are going, oh, we can't do that. You can. You know, you can change culture. It takes time, and it takes a little bit of gumption to push back on people. I had my employees were really, really stressed out when I pushed back on. Don't stop what you're doing and read the email that you just got and then do that and send it off. Like, don't do that. That's not helping anyone. And you had a lot of pushback and some anger, and you know, that's my job, to make everyone better, to make sure we're treated professionally, to make sure that we're not, basically what I try to say is under promise, over deliver, right? And part of the reason is because I see the opposite way too much. Good people with good intentions saying, oh yeah, I'll get that to you right away. And then a couple days go by and you don't have it. So my whole approach is to say, okay, you know, when do you need it? And then usually, sometimes people will give really reasonable deadlines. Hey, can you get it within the next couple weeks? Oh yeah, absolutely. And then pressure's off and they can work it into their schedule. Sometimes it's really important. And it's actually really important, not just the, I think it's important because I'm the one asking for it. So when you give your employees a week, you're allowing for other work to come in that might have to be prioritized over it. And you're also allowing them to potentially complete that work before we promised it to be done, right? So if I ask you for something and you tell me, I'll get it to you by Friday, okay, that sounds great, thank you. And then you give it to me Wednesday, I'm pretty pumped about that. Like, I think that's really great. But if you tell me, oh, I'll get it to you on Tuesday, I'll get it to you tomorrow on Tuesday, and I don't get it till Wednesday, I no longer trust you. I can't trust you because you didn't meet your expectations. You told me a day and then you couldn't meet it. And so I will always go to the person who gave me a reasonable expectation and then delivered and actually went over that. So, you know, do this for yourself, do this for your team. And people get sick, you know, things happen. The GIS crashes or plotter goes out. I mean, you need to put in that buffer time. You know, you can no longer be the most technical person on your team. So you have to push those tasks to someone and give them time to do it. And the other thing is I see a lot of managers keep the high profile projects, quite frankly. And, you know, I don't subscribe to that. I want my employees to do it. I actually had an opportunity. One of my employees did some work and the city manager said, oh, you know, kind of like, well, who did this? And I said, oh, it was this person. I used their name. You know, he kind of took him back a little bit. And I was like, oh yeah, they're great. And they've done this and this. And I just kind of took a few seconds to give them a bunch of credit and a bunch of kudos. And then I was able to go back to them and tell them, you know, kind of what had happened. Oh, the city manager asked, I told them that you did it. And you told them I did it? I was like, yeah, well, you did it, you know. And it really builds trust and credibility to my city manager. He just saw me not take credit for something I didn't do, and for my employee who saw me not take credit for something I didn't do. So these are huge for culture, huge for trust. So we track our work. This is kind of moving into that marketing piece, how to tell your story. So we do our work. As you can see, I don't even have a full day, you know, blocked out on the 4th. We do 30-minute increments. You know, for me, I'm not saying, well, you didn't mark out your time from 2 to 3. Where were you, employee? That's not what it is for me. For me, it's more of getting some data together to tell a story. So we have these really quick forms that you fill out with drop downs for the type and the department who we're working for. And then I'm able to create these different pie charts. And I have about 4 or 5 pages of charts like this, which are very easy to read. And I give them to my boss on a monthly basis. And we talk about the work that's being done and how it's getting broken out and all that. So I can then, you know, pull it for a longer period of time and really look overall, what were we spending our time on? And this is old data, 2018, but it gets the job done for my point. We had a month where the map roll, or the three different departments that we work with had some pretty time constricted projects. So police, finance, and the attorney's office. And so you can see city development, we're at 54% of our time was spent for city development. And that's usually more like 75. And so, you know, I made this chart because I wanted to show, because it's better than telling, because it can sound like a pity party, to show my boss, to say, hey, I just want you to see, you know, this month we had spent a lot less time on city development. We are building like crazy, and our parcels aren't getting worked on. We're not spending as much time on them as we normally are. I'm not able to, because we need to get these special projects done. And so it was just an easy way for me to show, you know, when we're asked for by other departments to do work, this is a consequence to city development, and acknowledging we're about a month behind on parcels. So my boss needs to know that. He needs to understand that for kind of at his level when he's doing his negotiating and things of that nature. We're able to show how our website usage increased. So you can see the scales on these 2 years are really, really different. So about here, we launched our open data page with data to download and all the stuff that I think at this point we all just think is normal or, you know, kind of expected. And that's a huge jump in usage. And it was really cool because it was able to really demonstrate and really show that the open data site is an important resource. It gets used, and the amount of time that we save on data requests, just filling data requests alone has saved us hours of time. And it was just honestly the way we've always done it. And it was just a new person coming in and saying, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. We were able to get a GIS developer for the first time. And so what I wanted to do in this graph, this was more for my city manager and my assistant city manager, my boss, or the deputy city manager. This is kind of more the high level stuff they want to see. And so what I was able to do was say, hey, look, this new position was added in February, and you can see how the type of work that we're doing has changed. So service requests were our focus in data maintenance in January, whereas now I have a dedicated GIS developer to do a lot of the heavy lifting that we need to be done. And you can see how server maintenance and web development is huge, right? And into March, you see the same thing. And so we could really see the impact to the work with this new position coming on board. I'm sure some of you were here earlier. I think it was the very first week. Adam Carno probably showed this. This is the 9 common business practices from Esri. And yes, I know there is a typo and I didn't have time to fix it. So what I did was, when I first arrived, I was able to break out my divisions, and then using the 9 common business patterns, I was kind of categorized them by meeting the need, partially meeting the need, and not meeting the need. And then I think there was some where I said, you know what, I'm not sure this is, you know, ever going to be a category. So I'm just going to give it NA because, you know, I don't want it to be red if it's never going to not be red. So then what I was able to do was 2 years later, I was able to update it. And this was a really, really cool, visual, powerful way to show progress in a very difficult career path that we have all chosen. So I know I kind of say pity party and I joke about it, but it is difficult to communicate. So this tool, I think, is wonderful. I was also able to, at that time, take these charts and have set up some meetings with the directors in my department and go over it with them. And it was a really nice way to have something that we could all look at and have a conversation about my thoughts about, you know, what does green mean? What does yellow mean? Right. And then what fits in this bucket? What are my thoughts for moving forward? What are their thoughts for moving forward? And how are we going to move this, anything from red up into the green? And so I highly, highly, highly recommend you use this tool. It's so easy. It really doesn't take a long time. And this is really impactful. You might look at this and say, oh, well, I already know this. Well, you know, nobody else does outside of your division. So make it visual. People love it. People don't need to know anything about GIS to understand this chart. You really need to be using social media. Listen, you know, in my organization, there are, you know, 8 GIS people. Well, there's like thousands of us, hundreds of thousands of us on social media. So, you know, you don't, instead of having 8 people say, yeah, great job, you know, have thousands of people say great job, right? This goes a really long way with helping you and your team, that culture become more positive and people feel great about what they do. So it's a great way to motivate people and for you as the manager to post stuff on social media. So for example, I took a screenshot of this dashboard that was created for our code officers, and there's kind of this fun story behind it, but I just put this dashboard up, made a, you know, little comment, and quickly, you know, I had over 3,000 views. I think it was in like a couple days. And I was able to share this with my employees, and they're like, whoa, really? Like 3,000 people viewed that? And like, couple people liked it and 53 people like comment, like that's cool. We're not getting that kind of feedback from internal, from the city, right? And Esri contacted us and said, hey, we saw your post. Can we write an article? And I'm thinking, this is awesome, right? So my boss, the code supervisor, my GIS developer are all going to get interviewed, and Esri's going to write an article about them. Like, that is so cool. You know, mind you, this is my first year working there. So like, this is kudos, right? I had another employee who really felt like they didn't know how to jumpstart themselves into ArcGIS Online. They felt like a little bit nervous that they were falling behind. So after, you know, a couple months of getting to know them and realizing what they liked and what they didn't like and things like that, I realized, well, story maps are, you know, technically fairly simple to do. And this person really likes dinosaurs. And there was a dinosaur found in the city of Thornton not that long ago. So I said, I want you to make a story map of the dinosaur. Like, go figure it out, go do it. And you guys should go look at this if you haven't. It's amazing. It's on our open data site. It's so fun. It's so amazing. There's a long story behind it, but I'm running out of time, so I won't go there. But I was able to post something about it on LinkedIn, and I had the links on there, and 2,000 people viewed it in 1 month, right? So people are looking at it, and the more you post on there, the bigger your community grows, which means there's more, you're getting out there, you're showcasing yourself more. Again, instead of 8 people saying that's cool, now we have thousands of people saying that's cool. This is huge. You giving kudos to your team and giving them exposure and talking about what they do and giving them credit. This is great. The other thing is, you know, you might not be able to directly go to an elected official and talk to them directly about your work, but you can post it on LinkedIn, and if they see it, that's cool, right? So you have to go out to go up sometimes. Maybe there's a level above you that isn't going to push that kind of stuff up, but I'm telling you, a lot of people at the city who I don't really talk to are part of my network. And so they're able to learn about what we're doing through LinkedIn, which is a little sad if you think about it, but you know, it is what it is. So, you know, after all this, after the first year, we were Team of the Year. And, you know, my employees told me like they've never even been nominated. So this was huge, this morale boost. I mean, it was really, really, really cool. And the next year, the GIS developer got Employee of the Year, right? So again, from a group that never was nominated, sat in the basement, wasn't integrated into the department. Now we're winning awards. We're getting articles, you know, and these are really great, amazing things to do. And the culture has just been transformed. So I really want to challenge you all to make some changes. You know, I have on here, I meant to change this last night when I realized it. Maybe you're not going back to the office, but go to your workstations, go to your computer, and go ahead and post something on LinkedIn. It's okay to do it. It's okay to brag. I know generational differences. I've heard from multiple people, they felt generationally that they shouldn't do that. Get over it and do it. Trust me. Find a mentor. I was able to find a mentor who I really liked their management style. I really liked their leadership style. And I was able to just watch them and ask them questions and then do it. Doesn't have to be a GIS person. My mentor was not a GIS person. So, you know, management is management in some cases. So go find some good ideas from someone whose team likes them and who are high performers. Go talk to them. Don't go to the people that tell you they're good managers. And then just go ahead and start nominating your team for awards. You might not win, but you know, when my employees not only found out they'd been nominated, but they had won Employee of the Year, the first thing they said was, "Oh my gosh, we've never even been nominated." I mean, that tells you a lot. They would have been happy just being nominated. That would have been cool to them. So that's my challenge for all of you. And with that, I will wrap it up. I think I went over time, so I apologize, but here's my contact information. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Feel free to shoot me an email, anything like that. So I guess we can open it up if I have time to questions.
Brandi, you do have a few minutes, so if anybody would like to ask a question, raise your hand and we'll open up your mic.
No?
Jackson,
Oh,
you can ask your question.
my
Hi.
elevator pitch.
This is Jackson from Grand Junction. I was just wondering, when you did that survey for your customers, how did you distribute it?
You mean my internal customers when I do my annual survey?
Yeah.
I honestly, I just send an email to my whole department.
Is it like do you use like a Survey Monkey type thing or? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Brandi, you do have a question in the question and answers. Can you share your elevator pitch?
So it's so funny that I knew this was going to come up because I was thinking to myself, man, you haven't thought about your elevator pitch in a long time. So Karen, you're calling me out on this, which I actually love right now. I used to have a better one, but it sounds so hokey sometimes too, you know what I mean? But what I try to do is, I'm not gonna be able to pull it off because I haven't practiced it in a while, which is again, why you need to practice these things. Like, I'm serious, we need to practice and be ready. You know, I work with the city development department to help provide solutions to their issues using technology. So obviously it should be better than that, but make it quick, make it understandable, and don't use the word GIS.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, Brandi. I'm going to turn it over to Pete and Karen to give us our closing remarks.
Okay.
Before you go, Brandi, just want to say thank you so very much for such a really, really important aspect to our work that we don't hear a whole lot of. And I commend you for approaching our industry the way you are. And thank you. So, Karen, you want to turn on your video also? Now, this is the most fun part. Thank you. And can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. These are our closing remarks. And Karen, I'm going to yield to you first, and then I'll let you go ahead, and then I'll finish up at the end.
Okay, thanks, Pete. So, yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Brandi. I loved your talk, and it resonates with a lot of the things that we talk about in NSGIC. And we have a group started there called Geo Women, and we've talked about building your personal brand and building an elevator pitch. And so, yeah, definitely things that we all should do. So thank you very much. Appreciated your talk. And I just wanted to add a few reminders to everyone. So one, if you haven't signed up for Bill Johnson's Carpe Geo blog, I highly encourage you to do so. His posts are always very thought-provoking and insightful. We can all benefit from his perspective from being in the business for so long, from a state like New York where things are just on a completely different scale. He has been there, done that, and he really has good insights that make you think. So sign up for that. Second, just remember that our videos will be out there available for those of you who registered through the end of September. Stay tuned for future training opportunities coming from both GISCO and YGO in the coming months. And I cannot thank our planning committee enough for all the work we have put into making this a success, especially Darcy. Darcy will not take credit, but Darcy did a lot of work to make this thing happen. So thanks to all of our planning crew. And my final thought is just that while the COVID pandemic has its tragic consequences, it also comes with opportunities. Our GIS profession is showing its worth as the solutions that we create form the bedrock of a better coordinated response to and understanding of our current situation. Keep up the good work, but don't forget to take care of yourself. And that includes taking advantage of the training and educational opportunities like this. Please go back and watch the videos that you missed. Above all, thanks for joining the Elevations Geospatial Summer Series, and be well. Well, Pete, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Karen. I guess this has been such an interesting effort for, I know myself, and certainly GIS Colorado and YGO, I think. And you know, there's a lot of people to thank. And I got to start with our planning team from YGO and from GIS Colorado. You know, they worked so hard putting together what was going to be our traditional conference in May at Steamboat Springs. And of course, when the virus came and everything had to change, they just shifted gears, shifted their thinking, and here we have a virtual conference. I've just been so impressed with those individuals that worked so hard to put all this together. And I'm going to go ahead and name them by name. So Karen, thank you. Darcy Kilpack, without a doubt, has been, even though she's been on secret, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, she's been on assignment with the USGS. Darcy's done an outstanding job helping, keeping us on task and pulling together this. Jeannie Hayes is another one, has been just the go-to person. Rich Chamberlain, Nicholas Case, Deb Wilson, Renee Hardy, and Andrea, and I'm going to mess this up, I know, Grijo. I think that's the correct pronunciation. Again, I wish we could have an applause. I should have maybe tried to can an applause so we could play it at appropriate times. And then, of course, the sponsors. Hexagon, Frontier Precision, Integrated Land Services, YGIS, and One Spatial. We want to thank them. We obviously would not have been able to do that to do this without the sponsor's help. Want to thank Bill Johnson and Brandi for doing our opening keynote and for our Endnote presentation. Both of them were fantastic on topic. And then the other thing is, in ending up, and I'm trying to do this at the same time, there we go. I'm pasting the link into the chat box for the recorded presentations and training. If you've registered for this, these are available on our GIS Colorado YouTube station. They will be available, and also you will be getting an email reminding you of where they are and how long they'll be available. I want to thank everyone who has participated, everyone in our industry. You know, this is what makes this industry, the spatial data industry, so incredibly interesting, is that the wealth of creativity, the wealth of the technology, the wealth of the diversity. We are an incredible industry, and we really do make a difference to everybody everywhere. You think about how simple people are with, you know, getting into their cars, turning on their cell phone and learning how to go from point A to point B. That's because of our industry. That's what we do. And everybody should be very, very pleased with the effort and the impact that we're having. And I guess finally, the next upcoming event, virtual event, is going to be GIS in the Rockies. Darcy, would you unmute yourself and let me know when that is?
I don't actually know. Hold on.
Sorry, I should have checked that, and I apologize. It's going to be early November, I believe. Okay, so that's all I have. Karen, do you have any last thanks words for us?
Only if I can get myself off mute. No, just thanks to you, Pete, for being my cohort in this. And again, thanks to everyone else. And we certainly hope to be able to do this in person next time around. And look forward to when we can get back together and enjoy a drink together or two.
Thank you. Darcy, again, thank you. Everybody else involved, thank you also very, very much. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we will meet again.
We will. Be well.
Thank you.